So hello and welcome. Today I'm going to break up the winter doldrums. I'm going to review some LED grow lights. These are my clip lights that I've had for a while. Don't like them. Look at the scraggly Irish moss I'm growing underneath of those, and I'm going to get rid of them. And I'm going to review two Vevor LED dedicated grow lights. One is this 150 watt version, which I purchased two of these on Home Depot online, and I put the prices up here. Of course, those could change for you. One of the reasons I like Home Depot, they give a veterans discount. So anyway, moving along, at the very end I'm going to show you the price of both units, because we're also going to compare a 400 watt unit, but this is the 150 watt. Look how it comes, well packaged, by the way, 3-prong plugs, and then we've got this connector so you can put a bunch of them together and control them with one unit, where it says 0 to 10 volt dimming. By the way, the dimmer switch here is pretty locked in. It goes from 0 to 25, 50, 75%, 100%, and then where it says EXT and off there, that's where you put your controller. So how big is it? 15 3/4 inches in one direction and 11 7/8 inches in the other. So it actually works really well on a 3-foot by 14-inch shelf unit. I use those metal rack systems, and these will hang on those. And this comes with its own hangers. They're pretty cool. They clip in here, and I will show you those because they came with it. See that? And then you can hang them from the strings that they also include, or you can just zip tie it directly to a metal rack system. I'm also going to compare power consumption between these two bar systems. And one of the things I like about these, though, is you can turn them on and set them on a timer. 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, or 12. And then it comes on automatically. 125 volt systems, both of them. This has an adapter, of course, because they run off of DC. See, you turn it on, put the power all the way up, not using the timer. And then, of course, by the way, if you lose power, the timer does not turn back on. You have to reset it. So we're going to look at the wattage. Look at this, though. 0.5 watts, even when it's off. I found that to be very interesting. These things use power even when they're not turned on. 1.1, 0.9 watts. It bounces around a little bit there. But passively, it uses power. Now let's find out at 25%, how many watts is this thing going to pull? Well, it should be 25% of its rated capacity, so 41.7 watts. And then we're going to go, of course, to 50%. And see what we get there. 75 to 76 watts. That's right, because that's half the rating of 150 watts. And then we're going to click it up to 75%. And look what happened there. I wrote the ratings down. At 75%, it pulled 116 watts, and at 100%, it pulled 150 watts, which is conveniently the rating of the light. So that worked pretty nice. I should also let you know, by the way, these little little bar lights that I showed at the beginning, 16 watts times 3, 48 watts, and they don't get anything to flower. You have to put them right on your plants to get them to grow. Another thing I learned, see these ratings here, the distance and time that you need to have your illumination on, they're the same no matter which unit you get from Vevor. You also get these little rubber plugs. What's that for? Well, so you don't get humidity, moisture inside this plug area. That's, of course, the RJ11 adapter plug, and that would allow you to string them all together and control them with one unit at the end. So here it is, hooked up on my metal rack system with the included hangers. I did not use those adjustable strings that came with it, and in fact I took the hangers off and put zip ties on because I wanted to move it up closer to the bottom of the shelf that I was strapping it to. Because guess what else I found out? They warm the plants above them as well, so you can use it to heat things. 23.7 degrees Fahrenheit outside. How bad is that? I also use fans, computer fans. They run on 4 watts apiece, super handy, keep the air moving, and it warms up my plant room. So these lights will warm the room, the air moves around, and look, flowering Irish moss. I've never had that happen before in my inside grow space. And this directly correlates with how much light you're throwing on them. So look, Irish moss on this shelf, no flowers. Irish moss on the other shelf, more flowers. So look at these little, of course, the bar lights. I'm getting rid of all of these, by the way. I'm going to pull them out. Going to put them on little side low light requirement plants. This is one grow rack here, and with the fans running, 3 fans, 1 on each level. You could use window light, but let me tell you what, it's not enough to grow anything worthwhile in wintertime. So here's the price of the next unit, $224.99. Don't forget, Home Depot gives you a veteran's discount. It might be on sale, but this is the 400 watt unit. And it's big. It's heavy. I was impressed. It's made in China. No great surprise there. Max wattage 400, but I don't set it at 400. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Of course, it runs off AC voltage because it has its own built-in converter. Here's the big box, same kind of suspension system, which I will use this time, and this is the same instruction thing no matter what wattage it is. You see it's got the 400, 200, 150, and 300 watt unit. I'm going to pull out this insulation and save it for later. You can make things with that. What's in that cardboard box right there? Well, the same stuff that was in the 150 watt unit. The 3-prong plug, very important. If you're in a damp environment, which they say these lights can go into, you want to plug that into a ground fault circuit interrupt outlet. So it says that it can handle misting and spraying, but you can't take these outside in the rain. Of course, there's rubber plugs again, which we're going to put in and cover those holes. Look at the size of this thing. It's heavy. It has a solid aluminum backer plate, which disperses the warmth. And it's well made. I was actually really impressed by this, but I don't know. You can't just look at a video and understand how heavy this thing is. 18.4 pounds or 8.3 kilograms. That's what it weighs. So let's measure it out. It's supposed to be a 24-inch unit, but it's 23 3/4 in that direction. And here we go. 23 5/8 in the other direction. Now, what do you think you need to do when you get one of these? You want to turn it on. First of all, before you plug it in, turn this knob all the way to 0. For some reason, it comes from the factory at 100%. You'll blind yourself. There's lots of warnings in here telling you not to look directly at the LEDs. So here we go. Plug the dimming switch. Here's the 3-prong plug. I'm making this very dramatic. I know it's exciting. Anyway, the plug is 6 feet long. That's pretty standard lamp cord length, so you need to plan for that. Your outlet needs to be nearby, or you're going to need an extension cord. We're going to measure the voltage and wattage, of course. We know it's a 110, 120 volt unit. Let's see how many watts. Now here's the cool part. This is the largest grow light that I own, and it pulls 0 watts when it's off. It's the only one I have that doesn't passively draw power. At 25%, it was pulling 98.7 watts. We're going to go right up the line. At 50%, it pulls 202 watts. And at 75%, as you might guess, on a 400 watt system, it pulls 307 watts. And then when we turn it all the way up to 100%, it bounces around between 402 and 401 watts. But this is pretty cool because the surface area of this thing is large. And I want you to check it out. See the LEDs? Before you install it or go any further, in fact, you probably should do this right away. Make sure every single LED in this thing is working. Notice there are different colored LEDs here to cover the full spectrum that's intended for plant growth. There might be a good reason why you shouldn't stare at these LEDs when they're on maximum light, because the UV waves that they put out would not be good for your eyesight. So you might even consider, I don't know, shrouding it or putting it in a position where little kids won't walk up and stare straight up into the light. So, what do you think? Double panels. So that looks like they took 2 200 watt units and put them together to make the 400 watt unit. And then, of course, you have the electrical connection in the middle, but it's all on one seamless piece of aluminum. Very impressive. So the different color diodes, and you might be nerding out a little bit on which of these diodes are best for growing your plants. Well, we know that, by the way, low light isn't going to get your plants to flower, depending on what they are, but these high-powered units definitely do. And we're just looking at the way the hooks to suspend it go in right here. Make sure, by the way, see the threads going through that turn loop there? Make sure that it's nice and snug to the aluminum. Make sure it didn't spread out. If you have any problem at all with it, they want you to contact customer service at vevor.com. I did. And you get a response within 24 hours, which I thought was pretty cool. Acceptable for indoor use only. And it says the luminaire shall be positioned so you don't stare at it. Don't look at the LEDs. Here's the output spectrum test report. So for those of you who know what you're looking at, these different wavelengths, they're not adjustable in the unit, just the intensity is. So here we are back at my little bar lights, and I have to put these right on top of my Irish moss to get it to continue to grow. If I put that stuff 10 inches, 12 inches, 20 inches away, it's not very good light. So I just made this comparison. The improvement is this. Look at the size of this 400 watt Vevor unit. It spreads out. In fact, if I had, and I do, out in another building, I have the 2 foot by 4 foot shelving units. And those would be great because I could get more plants started at one time. The other thing is, look at the way this is configured. There's an air space there. So the air passes over that aluminum plate and under the adapter. And so it runs really cool to the touch. The 150 watt unit was pretty darn hot. And then the 400 watt unit, because I ran it at a lower setting, I ran it at 25%, which is what you're looking at here. And this one up above is at 100%. And the shelving space is the same. So the good news is I'm getting much better growth out of these. So I will say that I like them. I was very surprised that Home Depot sells these things, and if you're a Home Depot shopper, I hope you'll go there because they had sales, of course, during the holidays, which was when you want to take advantage of stuff. And if you're a veteran, don't forget to put in for it. So here's the rundown. 150 watt versus the 400 watts. Since I have them both, I like them both. 150 watts was pulled and 400 watts was pulled at 100%. One weighs 8.5 pounds. The other weighs 18.4 pounds. They're both silent. If you're a videographer, you want it to be quiet. You don't want any noise. So you can look outside and stare at the snow and get all depressed and sad and bored, or you can go inside and grow some stuff and break up the winter, and then when spring comes, you can put your plants out for the pollinators in your neighborhood. I'm also going to start milkweed, so showy milkweed. And we've got swamp milkweed here too that I've never had good luck growing, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to try again. So this year I'm going to do it indoors, and if I've got these really bright lights, chances are I can really get a jump on things for the spring here of 2025. So break up your winter. I hope you enjoyed this review. Look at some grow lights. These are priced pretty decent. And I think they're performing really well because I did get Irish moss to flower. Thanks for watching.